Hi, you know what a thumbnail is, right? A little piece of eye candy that's designed to take up at least that much of your time? Yes, a practically universal language among all people on YouTube. And I wanted to give my little 2 cents about this whole thing. The thumbnails are the most important part of YouTube aside from the actual videos themselves. I mean, when you go to YouTube, that's the first thing you see. But there's an ocean of people clawing and scratching their way just to get you to notice them. And with that comes a big question: how do I get people to look at me instead of them? But with that comes a little thumbnail theory, a gradually standardizing amount of ideals that are set to be the most effective way to get your attention. Now, I'm still trying to figure it out myself for the most part, but I have a few theories I do want to talk about in terms of what an effective thumbnail is. And for me, it boils down to 2 questions. What is the video about, and why should you watch it? For example, you see this video and there is a crazy looking car in the thumbnail. You're not even looking at the title yet. You just see this crazy car and you're saying, what is this about? First, you notice a couple things. You say, oh, this is a challenge where they're trying to live in their cars. And secondly, it's Top Gear. So if you watch Top Gear on the TV back in the day, you could see this and you say, oh, I recognize that. I'm gonna watch that. And that still works because Top Gear is just a good show. But the primary reason you watch this is just because the thumbnail makes you ask, what is this about? And the thumbnail answers it. When you click on the video, you immediately see that crazy looking car and it's like, oh, I'm clapping. Yay. I saw the thing I saw in the thumbnail immediately. But it also leads to another point. When you're on YouTube, the first thing you're looking at are images. You're not really looking at the title as much. That's a supplement to the image, the thumbnail. So again, with Top Gear, you're looking at this crazy image and you're saying, whoa, a crazy looking car. And then you go to the title and you say, oh, camper van challenge, which is a little rule of thumb I like to call the whoa and oh. Whoa, look at this thing in the image and oh, that's what it's about, huh? And it can be embodied in many different ways. For example, oh, look at this teddy bear with human looking teeth. Oh, why are things creepy? It's educational. Or what about this thumbnail with Robin Williams and you say, whoa, and then you look at the title and you, oh. But truth be told, this is a stupid, effective way for thumbnails to work that you probably hate sometimes just because of how easy it is to hijack as a concept. For example, put a woman in the thumbnail with a big jiggly booty and then you look at the title and you say, oh, this is about the BBL conspiracy. I mean, this just has a broad application is what I'm saying. But in my oh so humble opinion, I think the best examples of the whoa and oh are people that are able to bend it to their will. For example, someone like Bill Wirtz. You look at the thumbnail, you say, whoa, history of the entire world, I guess. And then you look at the title and you say, oh, history of the entire world, I guess. I'm being a little silly about it, but it does reaffirm that this is literally the history of the entire world. In fact, I'm going to tell you twice just so you know. But I love how Bill Wirtz does it. You have this little thing of the earth right here. It's actually kind of abstract looking. Then you just have back drop, white text, tells you exactly what it's about. I think it works great in a minimal way. And for someone like Bill Wirtz, this thumbnail also works just because that's kind of a style of thumbnail he was doing already. If you're a subscriber to Bill Wirtz, if you really liked history of Japan, this is something you could recognize from him. Also, the view count factors into whether a video is credible or not. I mean, you're probably gonna trust a video with more views than a video with less views just because that's a higher quantity of people who actually watched it. Watching something with a higher view count probably means you're less likely to waste your time. Which I mean, you're probably wasting your time regardless, but sometimes you win. So on a very, very basic basis, I think that's what constitutes for a good thumbnail. Which leads me to the bigger meat of this video, which are thumbnails that aren't as good. So like I said, the whoa and oh, this is something that I recommend you build off of instead of just using directly. But if you use directly, I mean, you're not really going to harm anyone, but it's just kind of easy to exploit. Take the average drama YouTuber. Chances are the thumbnail's gonna have a face of someone you recognize and then the title is going to say they did a bad thing. So whoa, it's this person I recognize, oh, they did a bad thing. I'm gonna get to worse examples in my opinion, but this one's just kind of easy to churn out. It's pretty blunt, it's pretty easy to understand, but you're just not gonna get like something interesting out of it. I didn't have drama channels in my mind when I was making that video, so I kind of glossed over it more than I should have. And I like Pyrocynical, but the main channel's doing all the heavy lifting. So factoring in the whoa and oh theory that I'm still currently developing, the ideal goal with that and thumbnails in general is to make something intriguing and want to be clicked on.
Well, it's official. The Hawk to a Girl is basically the internet's new skip.
But again, this is something that's just a lot more exploitable, especially because they're uploading every single day and they probably don't have that much to say every single day. And you can kind of see these intrigue bait titles work to varying degrees. For example, Anthony Fantano's situation is awful. I wonder what the awful situation is. I actually don't know, and you know what? I'm a little intrigued because I recognize this person. And then you have something like this TikToker has lost it. It has less than half the views, and you know why? It's because TikTokers are subhuman and they don't deserve any sympathy. Like, I actually recognize this person, Jeremy Fragrance, but I just don't care about TikTokers in general. Minecraft movie looks really awful. I wonder what he's gonna talk about for 18 minutes. And I have more examples pulled up. I hope they're not too offended. This is another channel. I mean, this does make me say, oh, but does this make me say, whoa? We have a very serious problem. I mean, who is we? And then there's someone who's ugly in the thumbnail and it says, this is creepy and gross. Now granted, these videos are a lot shorter. And then the most infamous example right now is more Pegasus, because you look at this, and what I want to get across is that although these thumbnails work, they're not necessarily good thumbnails. But to me, at least, a better thumbnail uses what's happening here as a fundamental rather than a template. If you want a video that talks about these types of examples, I'd recommend Flazefire's video. I'll put it in the description so you can watch that, but watch my video first, of course. But I like what he talks about. It's short and sweet, it's entertaining, and you know what? It has a pretty good thumbnail as well. But like I mentioned with someone like Bill Wirtz, for these history videos, he has a very minimal thumbnail style. But the minimal thumbnail style of Bill Wirtz is really what I want to talk about because of other people who do this thumbnail style, where they'll have text and then image goes somewhere. I've been seeing this especially as of late within cartoon reviewers of all people. Not even necessarily reviewers, but I'm convinced a lot of these people are just content farms. Now, I know where these come from, but I can't remember the guy's name because it's just a little too weird for me to recall, but he had these thumbnails about SpongeBob theories. For example, the sponge hinge theory, where on one side he has SpongeBob petrified into stone or whatever, I don't really know what it's about, and then the other side is just the sponge hinge theory. And I'm gonna be honest, pretty good thumbnail, but SpongeBob's doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. Because to me, the title of a thumbnail is supposed to add context to the image, or maybe vice versa sometimes. But in this case, it's just sponge hinge theory, sponge hinge theory. You might be saying to yourself, oh, but what about Bill Wirtz? He just did the same thing with History of the Entire World, where yes, Bill Wirtz does the same thing where the title is the same as the thumbnail, but I think he does it the most effective simply because he's doing something that's kind of crazy. When you have something that's a little bit crazier in that vein, having it both in the title and thumbnail gives it a lot more of a punch. So with a video essay, I would just appreciate the thumbnail being different in the sense that it could add a little bit more context, but not too much context. I want to learn from the video. It lets you know it's a video essay because it has theory in the title and it's going to talk about a theory. So because of that, I would like a little bit more context in the actual thumbnail. Not too much context, but just enough so that it makes you a little bit more intrigued as to what the video is about. And I get to a much better example of that later in the video. And I know I sound a little bit like a snobby critic right now, but I want to get a little bit further into this because of what this has influenced. And Karsten Rundquist, this is no fault of his own, but he has caused a chain reaction because there's these channels now that are popping up and they'll have a cartoon on one side and text on the other. Very simple, minimal, clean looking, might I even say, because it's such an effective thumbnail with such little effort. You have people popping up doing this all the fucking time now. That's right, and when everyone has a good looking thumbnail, no one will. And even Karsten spiced it up a little bit. Sometimes he puts text on the top and image on the bottom. You know, he spices it up so it's not too repetitive looking. Okay, so here's an image of a thumbnail, right? You have the villain from Wreck-It Ralph on one side and it's saying perfect twist villain. So I'm assuming it's a video essay about why the villain from Wreck-It Ralph is a good villain. Maybe it's even the perfect villain, the perfect twist villain. And the title? How to Write a Twist Villain, Wreck-It Ralph. And that stuff you can already see in the thumbnail. If I'm being honest, this title, it's probably just search engine optimization. Because you have how to, which is usually in relation to more informative content. Write a twist villain, that's usually involving media, which media? Wreck-It Ralph. So I'm assuming this is used more for search engine optimization rather than, you know, actually having a captivating title. Also, I like this guy's channel name. It's Toon. And I also found more content farms. Not just one, but two. One for The Simpsons and the other for Family Guy. So on one side you see The Simpsons hugging and crying and the other says the saddest episodes. Oh, I wonder what this is about. The Simpsons saddest episodes. And you might look at this and you say, oh, well, that's just, it's harmless. And it is. You see a beat up Stewie Griffin and it says worse than you realized. This one is actually a bit more vague. This one is about Stewie Griffin's worst ever moments. And you know what? This one actually does the thumbnail thing better and it shows in the views because it includes more whoa in the thumbnail and oh in the title. It's not being redundant of what it's talking about. It actually adds a little something spicier. Why is Stewie Griffin beat up and it says worse than you realized? Well, I guess I'll have to look at the title. Oh, it's Stewie Griffin's worst ever moments. It's still a bit vague, like, is he still getting beat up? Like, when they say worst ever moments, is it bad things Stewie has done, or is it bad things done to him? I'm still not really sure. I'm not gonna watch the video. You can watch it.
It's not until they're facing off that you realize just how much one show copied from the other. And I'm not brave enough to add fuel to the fire and say which one did which.
But truthfully, the average person looks at these thumbnails and they say, okay, what's the fucking issue? And that's where you come in. That's right, the average person. That's where you come in about these thumbnails. Because let's take a second to think, you and I. I just told you how to make these thumbnails. They're ridiculously easy to make. You can make them right now if you wanted to. White backdrop, Arial text, some cartoon characters, PNG. You already got it. But personally for me, I care about a good viewing experience on YouTube. And when you look at some of these thumbnails, it's pretty easy to just click on it and kind of shut your brain off and watch it. But if you care enough about the quality of content you're watching, you can at least look at this right now and you say, oh, and then you can find something else to watch in the background, like me or David Achu. He's doing a good job. He's the reason I put up a fucking green screen, whatever this is. I think he's killing it, and the thumbnails represent the quality of his content, in my opinion. I put some thumbtacks on the wall. It costed me only about $2. Wow, $2 green screen, incredible. I don't know how it's going to look in post though. Another thing I want to talk about with these thumbnails though is that they can have a very, very high emotional tugging of the heartstrings. And by that, I mean this is my opportunity to complain about police body cam videos. Mainly just because one really good channel decided to make videos one day. And once they slowed down making videos, certain people realized, oh wait, we can make these videos, except they're just content farms again. But it's a shame because at one point these were actually really effective thumbnails, and to this day they're some of the most effective thumbnails for true crime on YouTube. Unfortunately, YouTube treated JCS the way they did, so they don't really make videos anymore, but they still have a legacy. And they had a style of thumbnail. They had the criminal in one area and then text on the other, you know, adding context. For example, this thumbnail, very intriguing thumbnail might I add. The low quality camera giving an ominous aura with a smile that looks haunting, with the text that says, all my boyfriends are still alive. Ooh, something's amiss here. I don't trust that face with that sentence. But also in general, anything that looks like it was accidentally recorded or just kind of like a bird's eye view of a recording, those are like extremely popular thumbnails on YouTube. I'm not entirely sure why. I guess it's just kind of catching something in the action is very appealing to people, especially if it's something bad that happened on accident. And the title, Wrath of Jody. There's still a lot of intrigue here actually. It's just vague enough that you know something bad happened and it involves a woman named Jody, but what? Something with a boyfriend? Probably. But it just leaves enough so that you want to say, oh, did something die? I want to know about that. Did someone get murdered? The answer is yes, someone did get murdered and someone's dead. And it's her fault. But honestly, in hindsight, this thumbnail annoys me, and it's to no fault of this thumbnail's own. It's because of what it's created on accident. There are so many channels that have ripped off this specific format. I don't want to get too deep into this, but I just hate how blatant these are most of the time. Wrath of Jody, it didn't tell you everything, but it made you connect the dots by watching the video. However, with these plethora of channels rising, you have something like this. Okay, with something like this, I understand that it's very pulling. Again, you're having something caught in the moment of action. And I don't fully know the psychology of why that works as well as it does for these people. That's a very big whoa. I mean, what escape? Did she escape? Who knows? And then you see the title, When Evil Parents Realize They've Been Caught. Very good puzzle piece connection right there. And I mean, if you're interested in true crime stuff, this is a pretty fine video to watch, I assume. You know, it has police body cam footage and stuff. However, it's really easy to manipulate these titles and not put what's in the thumbnail in the video.
The worst I've seen is this thumbnail where they just make up a scenario that never happened. This guy never says this, and he's not hijacking a plane. He was on a train.
What I'm saying is that these things get really lazy really fast, and a lot lazier than you might think. Moments evil teachers realize they've been caught. And again, my disappointment comes from the lack of care put into these thumbnails compared to the original inspiration. Especially with something like JCS. I mean, if you're gonna borrow from them, can you be better than this? Please? You're not going to, but, you know, I could be hopeful, maybe. Or here's a trend of thumbnails. As far as I'm concerned, this is a fucking robot making these videos, so I don't give a fuck about being mean to them. I fucking hate this. Specifically, I want to pull up 3 thumbnails of this channel. The Are You Stupid one, the Are You Stupid one, and most importantly, the Are You Stupid one. These thumbnails are uninspired, not creative at all, just very disappointing to the eyes. And guess what the titles are? Celebrities shutting down disrespectful interviewers. Celebrities flipping out at disrespectful interviewers. Rock stars flipping out at, you guessed it, disrespectful interviewers. And then there's this one with Joe Rogan that's just Joe Rogan interviews gone wrong, but he also just says, "Are you stupid?" Clearly they have found their formula for success.
But if you thought that clip was cringe-inducing, just wait until you see how Hardy handled another disrespectful interviewer in this next painfully awkward segment.
I have a question for Tom Hardy. Tom, I'll preface my remarks by saying that I have 5 sisters, a wife.
But I think what pisses me off the most is just the actual faces in the thumbnail. As far as I'm concerned, these interviews probably did go a little bit south, but you can tell from the faces of these thumbnails, it's just a candid shot. I am pretty much sure this woman is just talking and they screenshot her while talking. I guarantee you she's not taken aback by being asked if she's stupid. And you know what? I can be reaffirmed in that because of this. This is not Jimmy Kimmel giving an interview right now. He is clearly giving a monologue based off the backdrop. And you know what? Quite frankly, that just pisses me off when you have to manipulate the whoa in your video. And not even in a way that increases the excitement of what you're about to watch. It's just blatant misinformation. Did Mike Tyson call James Corden stupid? I could see that being a reality, but quite frankly, fuck this. And again, I haven't watched these videos because these thumbnails failed to do the exact thing they're supposed to do, which is make me click on it. I don't want to click on that. I think it sucks. I think it's a little stinky. And I'm just going to show a couple more thumbnails from this channel because it's kind of fucking funny. This is their second most popular video, and this is the second thumbnail they used with Gene Simmons in it for some reason. Aren't these thumbnails just the coolest? I like them so much. Don't they make you like want to learn more about the world and like be a happier person and shit? So in conclusion, thumbnails, they're very important to the video. They're very great for the video, but they can just kind of be abused. But if you want to make your own videos, just remember the whoa and the oh. Honestly, it's a theory I'm still trying to apply myself. For example, I made a thumbnail about Starbomb. It became my lowest performing video, so I changed it to a direct copy of Chupo's thumbnail, and it's still my lowest performing, but holy shit, this thumbnail did way better. When I look at this thumbnail, I got a bunch of Starbomb stills, but when you look at this thumbnail, it's not really whoa. It's not really whoa at all, but just be able to identify the signs that can tell you this thumbnail is going to be a lot lazier than you probably anticipated. Are the thumbnail and title telling you the exact same thing? I admit my thumbnail theory, it's not perfect, but I do use this as a learning experience for myself as well. But you know what? Because of this, I also learned what can make for a slightly better thumbnail than just, you know, lying. Like again, there's no perfect thumbnail theory, but you can use a couple fundamentals to make your own style of a thumbnail. So if you want to make a good thumbnail, don't be too derivative and rip off people. That's what this video is about. Just don't rip off people. Okay, bye.